Worlds upon worlds embedded in rock, the Vasistha portal, where myth becomes reality. Episode 1. 1.1 The Prismatic Lab. Dr. Arundhati Ghosh tapped at a holographic console in the Prismatic Lab, a research complex on the outskirts of Bengaluru. She was a lean woman in her mid-50s, perpetually clad in khaki cargo pants and slate-grey shirts that could endure the rigors of fieldwork. Surrounded by floors of quantum servers gently humming in an engineered harmony of subatomic calculations, she read through the day's data feeds, neural lattice patterns, resonance frequencies, and translation logs from their AI's attempt to interpret ancient texts. The Prismatic Lab had been founded by the University of Transcontinental Anthropology to study quasi-historical and quasi-mythical transmissions. Here, anthropologists, quantum physicists, and AI specialists joined forces to uncover lost civilizations and cryptic cosmologies that appeared in religious or mythic canons. Rather than discarding them as fables, the lab's mission was to see if these texts could point to deeper truths about reality, illusions, or hidden technologies. Arundhati had spent her career bridging old Sanskrit traditions with cutting-edge science. She once specialized in the Yoga Vasistha, the medieval text widely regarded as a non-dualistic treatise on consciousness. Many considered it purely philosophical or allegorical, yet Arundhati suspected otherwise. Sitting next to her, also scanning data, was Dr. Taddeo Perron, a shorter man with a shaved head and faint geometric tattoos along his arms. Taddeo was a quantum computing savant. He had designed many of the lab's specialized machines for simulating entire conscious realms. Over the last few decades, Taddeo and Arundhati had become close collaborators, each pushing the boundaries of anthropology beyond typical field surveys or textual analysis. With their approach, analyzing subtle cues in myth and cross-referencing them with quantum simulation experiments, they had managed to reveal hidden knowledge in once obscure scriptures. Around them, a lattice of holographic screens flickered. Multilingual AI processes hashed textual passages from the Yoga Vasistha against known cosmic, quantum, and neurological frameworks. Its output scrolled by. In the infinite consciousness, there arose reflection. As in dream within dream, a hidden universe in the rock, consciousness seeing itself as if in endless fractal illusions. Arundhati peered at one excerpt that had been flagged in red. It spoke of a world within a rock, referencing an entire cosmos hidden in solid stone, host to rishis, gods, demons, and entire galaxies. She recalled the original Sanskrit verse describing how there are countless creations arising in pure consciousness, and how one of them was specifically embedded in stone. In past centuries, said Arundhati, these lines were read as allegory or purely mystical, but the text is oddly technical at points. She traced her finger across the swirling English translation. Rishis traveling to countless universes, each apparently ignorant of the other's existence. This is advanced simulation theory, centuries before we even had that terminology. Taddeo nodded. Yes, it's describing nested realities. The text practically says these are illusions, but illusions with their own structure, their own logic. In our lab's terms, it's describing a self-consistent virtual reality. The text calls it delusion or Maya, but then it also explains that these illusions are real to those who inhabit them, much like a simulation or a VR overlay so advanced it's indistinguishable from any baseline reality. She turned to a second screen, which showed the results of a neural quantum experiment they'd run earlier. A specialized AI had been fed the instructions from Yoga Vasistha regarding meditation, yoga, and subtle bodies. The AI discovered parallels to how a quantum computational system might create ephemeral fields of data that only exist once observed. For Taddeo, such parallels had become unignorable. Look here. He enlarged a 3D model of a quantum wave function. If you interpret the text's suggestion about the mind traveling to a rock-based universe, like a warp within pure consciousness, this might be a clue, Our simulations suggest that if you tune quantum frequencies a certain way, you get stable anomalies that can appear as entire enclosed realities. The question is, how to confirm it? Arundhati inhaled sharply. We build a gateway. We use everything we've deciphered from the text, from these instructions on mental focusing, from the architecture of the illusions. We combine it with our advanced VR gear. Maybe we can replicate the yogic approach artificially. The rishis used mind control. We can do it with quantum servers and neural lattice headsets. Tadeo's eyes gleamed. We try to step in. We see if we can find the rock and that hidden universe. They exchanged looks that wavered between excitement and trepidation. If successful, they could prove that so-called ancient mythology was describing a real, existing simulation. But it could also redefine what they knew about objective reality and anthropological inquiry itself.
1.2. The mysterious link.
Before they could propose an expedition, they needed more clues. A younger researcher in the lab, Meera Narayan, approached them with a newly retrieved passage from the Yoga Vasistha, which read, "I saw countless universes. Some were coming into being, some were perishing. I saw a radiant woman who told me she lived within a rock, waiting for her husband to awaken." Meera had found an overlooked commentary describing the same universe that was accessible through deep meditation at the intersection of mind and space. Meera's dark eyes shone with a curious fervor. The commentary suggests that the ancient sages believed this rock-located world was as large as any cosmic realm, with its own timelines, life forms, gods, and so on, all hidden from the vantage of normal awareness. Arundhati felt a tingle in her spine. This aligns with the concept that advanced yogis discovered an entire dimension but concealed it as a metaphor. Because who would believe them? Meera nodded vigorously. They even say that the rock was visible to the naked eye, but you'd never see a hidden cosmos in it, unless your consciousness resonated with that dimension. Then you'd shift into it, or you'd shift your vantage point so that the hidden realm becomes real. At that moment, a notice pinged from the lab's central AI, codenamed SARA-S-3, Self-Aware Recursive Anthropological System. The main display flickered to life, recommended action, build a nested VR interface, integrating textual instructions from Vasistha's yoga with quantum lattice computing. Hypothesis. Once inside, multiple participants may detect stable anomalies correlated with rock universe references, a so-called world within the rock. Arundhati exchanged a grin with Tadeo. Even the AI was pushing them forward. She turned to Meera. It's time to propose an expedition, but not a typical journey to a desert or an archaeological dig site. We're going to venture inside a digital simulation that replicates the state of mind these ancient rishis perfected. Let's see if we can do in bits and qubits what they did with consciousness alone. 1.3. The project takes shape. They began in earnest. Lines of code were written, quantum lattice parameters adjusted, neural lattice headsets tested. Over the next few weeks, the lab moved into a feverish mode of activity. They were forging a new type of VR, one that didn't just show illusions to participants, but also harnessed quantum entanglement to shift participants' conscious vantage point, effectively creating a self-consistent microcosm that the group could explore. This would be no simple video game-style VR. Tadeo's quantum architecture ensured that each user's neural signals fed back into the system's wave function, shaping the emergent environment. In other words, user consciousness was a partial co-creator of the environment. This principle matched the ancient teaching that the universe arises from the observer's notions. They had no illusions that the experiment would be safe or straightforward. There were countless unknowns. While Tadeo hammered out the code, Arundhati curated the right textual mantras and guided meditations from the Yoga Vasistha. This ancient text included subtle instructions about focusing one's attention so that illusions solidify or dissolve at will. Her idea was to replicate these instructions in a digital medium, letting the system do the heavy lifting of concentration so that participants could slip more easily into that state. The day came for a preliminary test. Mira volunteered to be an alpha participant. Strapping into a neural lattice helmet, she looked at the swirling energies in front of her. "Ready," she said, with a faint tremble in her voice. Tadeo typed a few final lines of code. "Coordinates locked. We'll see if you can catch a glimpse of anything resembling the rock world. Just keep your mind calm. Recite the mantras mentally if it helps." Arundhati gave Mira's shoulder a reassuring squeeze. "We'll be monitoring from outside. If you feel any distress, we'll pull you out." With that, Mira closed her eyes. Tadeo started the quantum lattice engine. Waves of color flickered across her closed eyelids as her mind was plunged into a swirling tapestry of luminous shapes and abstract patterns. To the lab's sensors, her brainwaves shifted into a pattern reminiscent of deep meditation states, but artificially stabilized by the system's entanglement networks. For a few minutes, it was just swirling fractals. Then Mira gasped. I see something. It looks like a large black rock in a horizon of emptiness. It's bigger than I am, but I can't measure scale properly." Tadeo nodded to Arundhati. They recorded the data streaming across the system's monitors. Indeed, the word rock repeated in the AI's textual analyses. The system was picking up neural linguistic parallels to the rock universe. Then Mira's vitals started to spike, so they shut down the system and eased her out. Once the helmet was off, Mira blinked. That was... She paused, searching for words. It was so real in some ways. I wasn't just seeing a rock, I felt that behind it was depth. Like if I just stepped forward or looked closer, I'd fall in. But it was terrifying too. Arundhati enveloped her in a quick hug. "That alone is a huge leap forward. We have partial confirmation that what the text is describing might be an actual stable phenomenon in the consciousness quantum interface. The question is, can we go further? Step inside?" 1.4. The summons. They took a break to process the data. Tadeo cross-referenced it all, particularly the singular moment when Mira reported seeing a rock horizon. During that moment, the quantum lattice readouts spiked with an anomaly, some kind of sub-state bubble. This bubble hovered in the system's wave function as if it were an entire domain. If they had lingered longer, perhaps it would have formed an entire internal cosmos. The AI flagged a correlation with lines from the Yoga Vasistha. All these arise as consciousness in consciousness. Hence, it is illusory. Yet illusions are real within themselves. Hence, worlds exist within a speck of dust, or a rock, or a moment's dream. Before they could finalize their next steps, the lab received an urgent dispatch. The university's oversight committee had become aware that a fringe project was sinking large amounts of quantum processing time into what they considered an unscientific pursuit of mythical realms. A formal notice arrived on Arundhati's tablet. From the Office of Scholarly Integrity. Subject: Meeting required. Project Rock Universe. We question the scientific viability and safety of such an experiment. Please present your findings. If insufficiently justified, your resources may be reallocated. Arundhati felt her stomach churn. She turned to Tadeo and Mira, reading the notice aloud. "They might shut us down." Tadeo paced. "We'll show them the data, the correlations to advanced quantum theory. This is more than chasing illusions. We might have discovered a real phenomenon that parallels everything from simulation theory to the multi-world interpretation of quantum mechanics." But their biggest challenge was that no one in the mainstream believed ancient texts could be literal about such cosmic illusions. The standard academic viewpoint was that references to rocks containing entire universes must be hyperbole or symbolism. Nonetheless, they prepared for the hearing. They compiled reams of data showing the quantum lattice anomalies, the neural lattice readouts, the surprising matches with subtle codes in the Yoga Vasistha. The date for the meeting arrived. an austere glass-walled chamber with a half-circle of the university's senior staff gazing at them skeptically. Arundhati presented her arguments calmly, concluding, "We intend to see whether the world within the rock is an actual, stable simulation domain, accessible via advanced technology or the yogic states described in the text. Our preliminary data strongly suggests yes. The implications for anthropology are staggering. We could discover entire new cultures, AI-driven or conscious-coded, within a dimension that ancient traditions tapped into. It would also revolutionize how we define objective reality." The board asked tough questions. They worried about risk to participants, overzealous leaps, and lack of real evidence. But Tadeo's thorough demonstration of the quantum lattice correlation helped sway some members. So, in the end, they were granted a short extension, though with conditions. The final verdict: we allow you one thorough expedition attempt supervised by an independent safety officer. If no conclusive progress is shown, the project is terminated. It wasn't a guarantee, but it was all they needed. 1.5. Prelude to the expedition. Back at the lab, the team realized their next attempt had to be more robust, more daring. They planned a group immersion with multiple participants simultaneously entering the VR quantum lattice environment. Each participant would have an integrated neural lattice headset. The system would unify their mental frequencies, hopefully stabilizing that rock domain enough to let them step inside. Arundhati insisted that each participant train in the basics of pranayama, breath control, and classical yoga meditation techniques. We'll replicate the ancient rishis' approach, a calm mind. Because if these illusions are shaped by consciousness, chaotic or fearful minds might sabotage the environment or lead to bizarre phenomena. The next 2 weeks saw the lab turned into a half-yoga studio, half-ultra-tech lab. Researchers, anthropologists, AI programmers, quantum engineers, even a safety officer from the university practiced daily breathing exercises, studied the relevant yoga Vasistha passages, and tested the VR equipment. Everyone felt a mixture of excitement and caution, tinged with an undercurrent of the unknown. On the eve of their scheduled immersion, Arundhati found Tadeo alone in the observation deck, gazing at the starry sky. "Nervous?" she asked softly. He exhaled. "A bit. We're about to walk into a realm that might rewrite everything we know. If it's real, it means so many of our assumptions about matter and consciousness were incomplete. And if it's not, we risk losing credibility." She rested a hand on his shoulder. "Either way, the only path is forward. We've come this far." Tadeo gave a half smile. "You're right. Tomorrow, we find out if these ancient mystics really did discover a cosmic simulation." Arundhati turned toward the window, the campus lights glimmering far below. A hush filled her mind, a sense of stepping to the edge of a cliff in the dark. "Yes," she whispered. "We find out tomorrow." They left the lab that night under a canopy of silver stars. The next day, they would begin what they called the World Within the Rock expedition. Little did they know it would spiral into revelations and perils beyond their imagination. Worlds upon worlds embedded in rock, the Vasistha portal, where myth becomes reality. Episode 2. Entering the Simulation. 2.1. the Nexus Chamber. The following morning, the lab was transformed into a multi-tiered command center. In the middle of the main hall lay a circular platform lined with quantum lattice nodes. 8 sleek reclining chairs formed a ring around the center, each equipped with neural lattice headsets. A transparent dome overhead displayed real-time data about the quantum wave function states. Arundhati, Tadeo, Meera, and 3 other researchers, Dr. Shaheen Kapoor, a neurolinguist, Dr. Yvonne Hastings, a consciousness studies expert, and Dr. Ren Okazaki, a virtual reality engineer, would immerse themselves. The 7th seat was for an official safety officer named Lieutenant Jonas Mowbray, assigned by the university. Mowbray was a no-nonsense man with a military background, skeptical of all this mystical nonsense. He was there purely to ensure no one was physically or mentally harmed. The 8th seat remained empty, a backup for any last-minute participant or emergency staffer. On an upper walkway sat a crowd of observers from the university board, plus other curious researchers from adjacent departments. They watched as Tadeo made final calibrations to the integrated VR system. Arundhati led the group through a gentle guided meditation. The entire setup hummed with tension. This was it. Once they started, they had only limited time and quantum resources to see it through. The group settled into their chairs. Eye-driven arms gently lowered the neural lattice helmets over each participant. Tadeo's calm voice emanated from hidden speakers. Commencing quantum lattice handshake in T-minus 30 seconds. Everyone, focus on your breath. The system will replicate the mental absorption described in Yoga Vasistha. If all goes well, we project ourselves into that dimension. Good luck. Arundhati's heart pounded. She recalled a verse. In the infinite consciousness, illusions arise as in dream. The wise see only consciousness, the deluded see worlds. She took a deep breath, letting her eyes drift closed. 2.2. The initiation. An indescribable swirl of color, sound, and pure sensation enveloped them as the system engaged. Each mind sank deep into the quantum lattice interface. Gradually, distinct illusions coalesced. At first, it seemed like they were floating in a luminous ocean of swirling fractal patterns. Then, their vantage sharpened. They found themselves standing, though they felt no tangible ground, within an endless black void. Yet in front of them was a single monolithic rock, dark grey, floating in the darkness. Tadeo's voice, calm yet resonant, reached their shared mental space. I'm seeing it. Are you all seeing the same thing? Arundhati's internal mind voice replied, yes, a massive rock, a single entity in a cosmic night sky. Meera's voice, exactly. It feels bigger up close. Lieutenant Mowbray's voice had an edge of alarm. How is this so real? I can feel the chill of this void. That's not typical VR. Indeed, this VR was different. The quantum lattice was tapping into subtle layers of their consciousness. Every sensation was hyper-real. They could see each other only as luminous outlines, but could sense emotion and posture. Ahead, the huge rock glistened. It was the approximate size of a small mountain, though scale was tricky in a dimension with no horizon. Its surface was pockmarked, like volcanic basalt. Something about it felt alive. Tadeo took a step forward. According to the text, there should be an entire universe within it. We need to see if we can pass inside. Arundhati recalled the instructions from Yoga Vasistha. He who abandons all notions of the physical merges in the infinite consciousness. Then the rock is perceived for what it is, a portal of illusions. She quietly recited a Sanskrit mantra of dissolution, focusing on letting go of her sense of an external solid reality. The system, linked to her brainwaves, might respond. Indeed, the rock began to glow faintly. Veins of silver light coursed across its surface. Ren Okazaki, the VR engineer, studied the phenomenon with digital overlays in real time. We're definitely affecting it. Keep it up. They gathered at the base of the rock. Each participant mentally repeated the meditative instructions. A swirling aperture began to form, an opening of shimmering translucence. Without any physical gesture, they collectively willed themselves closer, and the aperture seemed to widen. "It's like we're stepping into warm water," Mira commented. "But it's solid rock." Lieutenant Mowbray involuntarily reached out. His luminous outline hand sank into the rock's surface like it was liquid. "This is insane," he muttered. "Feels so real." "Here we go," said Arundhati. One by one, they drifted through the aperture and entered the rock. 2.3. Within the rock. They emerged into a landscape so incongruous that everyone froze in awe. It was daytime, with a sunlit sky swirling overhead in pastel hues of turquoise and lavender. They stood on the edge of a lush meadow, emerald grass carpeting the land in gentle waves. Off in the distance were rolling hills, rivers, and beyond that, snow-capped peaks that glowed with an otherworldly luminescence. Birds sang in the trees. A gentle breeze carried the scent of jasmine. Overhead, shapes that resembled small drifting islands floated lazily. The entire environment teemed with life and color. This was no mere metaphor. This was an entire world hidden within the rock. Arundhati breathed it in. So it's true. Some aspect of consciousness or sub-reality is generating this entire environment. The text was right. Dr. Yvonne Hastings, tears of wonder in her eyes, whispered, "The consciousness field is self-coherent. This must be the reality that the rishis accessed. Are we still sure this is just a simulation? It feels—" She trailed off, lost for words. "Let's keep our wits about us," Tadeo reminded the group. "We need data. We'll record everything with the system's internal memory." It seemed that each participant's luminous form had taken on a more substantial appearance now, as if the environment was providing them with physical shapes. They could see their own arms and legs, albeit subtly translucent, as if they were made of condensed light. Lieutenant Mowbray tested the ground with a foot. "Feels like real dirt. Smells real. If I didn't know better, I'd swear we just stepped through a door in normal space." Arundhati recalled the text's description of rishis encountering everything from entire civilizations to cosmic anomalies in such worlds. "Let's see if we can find inhabitants," she suggested. 2.4. The Radiant Woman. They ventured across the meadow, occasionally marveling at flora they couldn't identify, somewhere between Earth's flowers and luminous alien plants. Soon, they saw a radiant figure coming toward them. It appeared female, draped in a translucent robe that shimmered like moonlight. Her presence exuded calm and something akin to mild curiosity. As she drew closer, the group almost collectively remembered a passage from Yoga Vasistha. "I saw a woman radiant who illumined all directions of space. She approached and said, 'O sage, you have truly conquered the evils of lust, anger, and greed.'" The woman halted a few paces away, hands folded in greeting. She spoke in gentle tones, though they understood her in modern speech, courtesy of the system's translation overlay. "You have come. I sensed your approach from beyond the boundary. You are travelers, or explorers, yes?" Arundhati stepped forward. "Yes. We come from another realm. We read ancient teachings that mention this world. We're here to learn." The figure nodded. "We rarely receive visitors from outside. In times past, rishis and sages arrived, but it has been so long." She gazed at each of them, pausing at Mowbray's sidearm-like outline. "Fear not. No harm shall come to you here, unless fear itself be your cause. I am called Nera, once known as the Celestial Radiance." Tadeo was entranced. "Can you tell us about this place? Is it a simulation?" Nera smiled. "Simulation, creation, illusion, reality. You use many words. It is all pure consciousness. I, too, have lived here for eons, waiting to find release." Her gaze softened. "Long ago, this entire world was shaped by a powerful mind. He is my husband, the creator of this realm. We are bound to it until we realize the higher truth that dissolves illusions. Arundhati's mind raced. This was eerily close to the text describing the same radiant woman whose husband was a celibate sage ignoring her. Your husband? Is he still here? And you have not attained liberation? Neera's eyes grew distant. He merges often in silent meditation, leaving me to wander alone. My desires once bound me, but I've since cultivated dispassion. I have seen many wonders, countless births, dissolutions, yet each time the illusions persist, for so many still hold them in mind. Perhaps you travelers can help. But come, we should not stand out here in the open. She beckoned them to follow. The group, exchanging astonished glances, trailed her across a flower-strewn field toward a cluster of ornate buildings that looked half temple, half floating spires. Everything about this was beyond normal logic, and yet they walked through it as if it were the most natural realm. 2.5. The Celestial Audience. They arrived at a towering structure of polished stone that pulsed faintly with life. Wide arches opened to a grand hall within. There, upon a dais, sat a figure in deep meditation. His skin glowed, hair falling in matted locks. An aura of golden luminescence wreathed his body, so intense that the entire hall was illuminated by him alone. He did not stir as they entered. Neera addressed him softly, "My lord, awaken. Visitors have come from another domain. They wish to understand." The man's eyes drifted open. He slowly regarded the strangers. With each passing moment, the bright aura around him receded until he looked merely mortal, albeit regal and ancient. Arundhati stepped forward. "Greetings. We call it Earth, a realm outside this rock. We read descriptions of your universe in a text known as the Yoga Vasistha. We used advanced technology to enter. We want to learn how and why this world exists." The being, whom Neera called the Creator, remained silent for a time, as if calibrating to a new awareness. Then, in a deep, resonant voice, "You come from a dimension in which you believe matter is real and illusions are fantasies. Here, we know all forms are illusions within consciousness. This creation is non-different from pure consciousness, yet it appears to have form and solidity because of persistent notions. I am the focal mind of those persistent notions." Arundhati nodded. "Yes, that's consistent with the text. But we want to show the larger world that your existence is not merely mythical. We want to understand how illusions like this remain stable, and can you truly cause your entire world to end if you simply let go of the notion that it exists?" The Creator's eyes glimmered with subtle amusement. "In your dimension, do you not end illusions when you awaken from a dream? Yet to the dream's inhabitants, it is very real. So too here. When the mind that shaped it dissolves, the illusions vanish, but that dissolution may be partial if other minds sustain it. This is the secret of consciousness. One mind alone does not create all illusions. There is a web of interplay. I have mostly withdrawn from involvement, yet vestiges of desire or fear linger. That is how Neera remains bound." Neera lowered her head. "Yes, I was created as his consort, a manifestation of his subtle desire. But because he chose asceticism, I roamed unfulfilled, consumed by longing. Over the ages, that longing twisted. Now I too seek only freedom from illusions." Their words resonated strongly with the Yoga Vasistha's lines about desire, ignorance, and the illusions they spawn. The group recognized that they were part of the interplay. By witnessing and believing in the rock world, they too sustained it. 2.6. The Lab in an Uproar. Meanwhile, back outside the VR immersion, in the Prismatic Lab's control room, the watchers stared at readouts in disbelief. The 8 participants' vitals showed stable but extremely elevated neural coherence, as if they were all in a deep, identical dream state. The VR console displayed a swirling fractal with a stable subbubble labeled Interior Rock Universe. The AI was capturing reams of data. The watchers could see from a low-resolution vantage what each participant experienced, though only partially. The visuals were so complex that the system's monitors flickered in staccato pulses. One of the university board members asked in a hushed tone, "They're definitely seeing the same environment. This is extraordinary." Another commented, "But is it just a fancy VR script they created? Or is it truly spontaneously generated from their consciousness?" The data suggested something more than standard VR. The system wasn't pushing any pre-coded environment. Instead, it was a loop reading their mental states, the quantum lattice fluctuations, and forming a coherent domain from that synergy. There was no single controlling script. The entire lab bustled with excitement and underlying tension. If any participant's mind or fear spiked, it could produce chaotic events inside that realm. 2.7 Seeds of Disruption. Inside the rock world, after hearing the creator's words, Tadeo and the others questioned him about cosmic dissolution, illusions, time cycles. The creator explained that ages pass differently here. Entire civilizations have risen and fallen within that dimension, many of them unaware they are illusions. The group learned that intense fear or desire can reshape the environment or spawn manifestations. However, the more they discussed, the more Lieutenant Mowbray grew uneasy. All this talk about illusions. We're from the outside world. Our bodies are presumably lying in chairs. But if we do something reckless here, can we get stuck? Is it physically dangerous out there? Tadeo shook his head. We have safety protocols. The system can forcibly disconnect us if needed, but yes, we should be mindful. The text warns that attachments, even illusions, can entangle consciousness. Arundhati, remembering certain ominous lines, turned to Neera. In the Yoga Vasistha, the dissolution of entire cosmic structures was described. Fires, floods, chaos. Could that happen here if the Creator truly withdrew all involvement? Neera nodded solemnly. Indeed, it can. Or if he merges into the Absolute, all illusions might come undone violently. Many within the realm cling to illusions. They might cause great turbulence in the last moments. A hush fell. The group realized the Yoga Vasistha had described cataclysmic events that preceded cosmic dissolution. Arundhati began to wonder, is our presence here accelerating that process? The text says that once the cosmic person truly sees the illusory nature, the dissolution can begin. The Creator, reading her thoughts, spoke quietly. Yes, my continuing illusions are weakening. The moment of final dissolution draws near. But I sense your presence can help. There are many souls, illusions though they be, who fear the end. Perhaps you can show them the path beyond fear. Behind them, a subtle rumbling sounded, as though the ground itself let out a tremor. The sky flickered momentarily from turquoise to a deeper, stormy hue. Arundhati felt goosebumps. The text's cataclysmic vision was starting. She turned to Tadeo. We might be seeing the earliest signs of dissolution. We'd better gather more data quickly. Then we decide if we stay to observe or exit to avoid catastrophe. Lieutenant Mowbray looked at the swirling sky. Observing a cataclysm from inside a dissolving illusion? I don't like the sound of that. Yet curiosity and a sense of duty compelled them. Their mission was to document the phenomenon. Could they truly walk away at this crucial juncture? Arundhati's heart pounded. She recalled how the final cosmic dissolution in the text was both terrifying and liberating. Worlds ending, illusions undone, pure consciousness revealed. Part of her needed to see how it played out. She suspected that understanding might help the outside world realize the nature of all reality as a cosmic dream. 2.8 Breaking Boundaries. Suddenly, the ground shook more forcefully. A crack tore through the polished floor of the hall. Panicked cries rang out from outside as illusions began to fluctuate. The Creator's face remained calm, but lines of faint sorrow appeared. It begins. My illusions unravel. Neera's voice trembled. My lord, can it not be delayed? He shook his head. I have carried these illusions for far too long. The time has come for me to merge into pure consciousness. All ephemeral worlds must pass. Tadeo quickly interfaced with the VR control. He opened a mental channel to the outside lab. We're seeing signs of cataclysm. We'd like to remain a while longer to observe, but if it becomes too dangerous, we'll signal for an emergency extraction. From the external lab, the AI responded in their mind link. Understood. Monitoring your vitals. Arundhati turned to the creator. Before you dissolve, can you show us how illusions form and vanish? We want to bring this knowledge back. The creator raised a hand, a swirl of golden light forming around him. I shall do as I can. Follow me. In an instant, he rose into the air and floated out of the hall. The group followed, guided by intangible lines of force. The city around them was descending into chaos. Some buildings cracked, waterfalls from nowhere surged through the streets. Bizarre elemental phenomena manifested, lightning flickering in the pinkish sky. The laws of nature themselves were unraveling. And yet, the group felt only mild concern. Oddly, fear was muted, replaced by an otherworldly acceptance. Or perhaps the advanced VR training was damping raw panic. The creator led them to a vantage point high above the city. From there, they could see the land rolling away in all directions. On one horizon, flames roared, devouring entire forests. On another, a colossal wave overshadowed mountains. In the sky, swirling lights and rifts formed. The entire spectacle resembled the Yoga Vasistha's description, the end of a cosmic cycle when illusions fold into themselves. Neera wept silently, witnessing the dissolution of her home. Yet tears of longing no longer stained her expression with heartbreak, rather a strange relief. Perhaps now, at long last, I too shall be free. Meera, horrified yet mesmerized, asked in a trembling voice, should we try to help these people? Are they conscious beings? The Creator's voice was distant. They are illusions, yet illusions that feel, that suffer. In each dissolution, these illusions re-emerge unless realization dawns. Arundhati recalled the line, they do not attain liberation, not being enlightened, yet they do not become insentient, for they remain illusions. They continue existing in space, creating dream worlds within themselves. Her eyes filled with compassion. Even illusions are real enough to feel pain. She resolved to do something. Somehow. Then a deafening rumble echoed across the heavens. The final unraveling was near. They had precious little time. Worlds upon worlds embedded in rock, the Vasistha portal, where myth becomes reality. Episode 3, The Threshold of Dissolution. 3.1, Lab Commotion. Outside in the prismatic lab, data alarms blared. The quantum lattice readouts spiked in ways the systems had never seen. The entire subbubble that formed the rock universe was destabilizing. The 8 participants' neural patterns soared. Control sequences threatened to break down. Software engineers scrambled at their consoles, while the university board members gawked from behind glass partitions. Are they in danger? Demanded one. The lead engineer replied, the system's failsafe can forcibly extract them, but the risk is that such an abrupt cut in a highly entangled state might cause neural shock. We have to wait for the participants' own signal if they want out. Yet no one could imagine what the group was experiencing inside a dissolving cosmos. 3.2 Scenes of Unfolding Chaos. Within the rock world, the group soared, or perhaps were carried, across vast distances in seconds, witnessing catastrophic phenomena. Where once stood a quiet village, now was a swirling vortex that sucked up houses and farmland. People, illusions or not, ran in terror, the sky raining meteors. Rivers evaporated in seconds, leaving cracked mud. Further on, new floods erupted from fissures in the ground. Mira clung to Tadeo's arm as they alighted by a devastated city. She noticed ephemeral beings shaped like men, women, animals, all scattering. Some gazed up at the luminous newcomers in awe, as if recognizing them as divine. But unstoppable cataclysm marched on. Tadeo knelt by a trembling child figure, only for that figure to vanish like a wisp of smoke. Illusions indeed, he thought, sorrow welling in him. Arundhati felt tears burn her cheeks. Even illusions can evoke heartbreak. How many worlds within worlds have been lost and remade in ignorance? The Creator hovered nearby, calm yet solemn. Neera stood at his side, face etched with compassion. She stretched out a hand, and a swirl of light enveloped several illusions, who for an instant became calm, as if lulled into a gentle dream. "I cannot save them from the dissolution, but I can ease their fear," she murmured. Arundhati approached. "Creator, you said there might be a way we can help them realize the truth before they vanish?" He nodded. When illusions realize they are illusions, they merge into the infinite peacefully, without terror. Lieutenant Mowbray, unnerved by the cosmic meltdown, interjected, "But how do illusions realize anything? Isn't that contradictory?" The Creator studied him. "You are illusions too, in a sense. Yet you have intelligence, curiosity. All is consciousness. Even illusions partake of it. If they awaken to the truth, the fear dissolves." Tadeo looked around. "We're anthropologists, not gurus. But maybe we can broadcast a message of calm. The text says illusions are shaped by the mind, so if we focus on a single, coherent intention, maybe we can reduce their suffering." Arundhati closed her eyes, recalling a line. "When one abiding in truth beholds illusions, illusions fade." She decided to try. Gathering everyone's mental focus, they projected an overwhelming sense of peace, acceptance, and the knowledge that you are not separate, fear not the end. As they did this, golden waves of light radiated out from them, swirling through shattered streets and swirling floods. In its wake, illusions paused, the swirl of panic lessened. Some illusions, upon sensing the wave, dissolved gently into shimmering dust motes. Others spontaneously gained a measure of clarity, gazed upward with a peaceful smile, and vanished. It was a mass exodus of illusions, but one free of raw terror. Arundhati felt her heart lighten. We can do something. 3.3 Merging with the Infinite. High above, the sky churned with unstoppable forces. Lightning arcs carved fractal paths, and entire landmasses tore asunder. The ground itself quaked relentlessly. The group moved from region to region, offering this wave of peaceful dissolution. Each of them, including Mowbray, gave in wholeheartedly to the effort, consumed by compassion for these ephemeral souls. Now, the participants became more luminous themselves, an aura akin to that of the Creator enveloping them. The illusions recognized them as harbingers of cosmic change. The illusions either fled in despair or approached with reverence. Yet no matter how many illusions dissolved peacefully, the cataclysm progressed. The fundamental structure of the realm was unraveling, the local laws of physics undone. One entire mountain range floated into the sky in pieces. The oceans turned to swirling cosmic dust. Fire rained, water rose, wind howled, and storms roiled in a dizzying cacophony. The Creator turned to Neera. She looked back at him, eyes brimming. "At long last, we too must fade," she whispered. All these eons of longing, and now I only feel relief. He placed a glowing hand over her heart. May we both be free. Then the two turned to the anthropologists. Thank you, said Neera. In our final moments, I see how illusions can awaken to their inherent nature. May you carry this wisdom beyond. Arundhati felt a pang of sorrow, but also a deep serenity. She bowed. We will. As the final wave of dissolution rippled through the environment, the Creator and Neera closed their eyes, their forms dissolving into swirling streams of gold. For an instant, the gold light expanded to fill the entire sky, painting everything in a warm, soft glow. Then that, too, began to fade. 3.4. The grandeur of cosmic dissolution. In a heartbeat, the entire environment collapsed into luminous emptiness. It felt like the group was suspended in an infinite field of white radiance, with no up or down, no horizon. They sensed each other's presence, but even their luminous outlines grew faint. In that luminous emptiness, the voice of the yoga Vasistha returned to Arundhati's mind. Thus does the cosmic dissolution take place. When the vision of diversity ends, all that remains is the indivisible infinite consciousness. Tadeo's voice whispered through the mental link, What do we do now? Arundhati breathed. The illusions are gone. We stand in pure consciousness, or the simulation's representation of it. According to the text, the next step is to let go entirely, or we choose to return to our baseline. The question is, do we stay in this state? Mowbray's voice cracked. I'd prefer to get back to the real world. We have more research to do. We've done our job. A flicker of amused agreement from the others. They had accomplished their mission. They had witnessed the end of a cosmic cycle within the rock. Arundhati signaled the lab's AI for extraction. But something curious happened. A faint echo of a presence stirred in the white emptiness. For a split second, they glimpsed a swirl that formed the silhouette of a hooded figure. It was as if a new thought form was intruding from outside. The figure spoke in an unearthly voice. You have seen dissolution, but have you understood creation? Then the swirl vanished. What was that? Tadeo whispered. Before they could investigate, a pull tugged them upward. Their minds were wrenched from the luminous ocean. 3.5. Return to the lab. Their eyes flew open as the neural lattice helmets lifted. Harsh overhead lights, the hum of servers, the dryness of air-conditioned reality. It was jarringly mundane and overwhelming all at once. A sudden wave of vertigo struck everyone. They'd become so immersed in the rock world's illusions that reorienting to normal space was disconcerting. Lab staff rushed forward, checking vitals. The watchers on the upper walkway erupted in cheers, exclamations, or frantic questions. Arundhati gingerly sat up. We're back. She looked at the readouts. The quantum lattice node was cycling down from a massive, entangled peak. The sub-bubble labeled Rock Universe had collapsed. She exchanged glances with Tadeo, Mira, and the others. Their faces conveyed wonder, sadness, and the awe of what they had just witnessed. Mowbray was pale but nodded stiffly. That was no ordinary VR. I have no words. University board members descended into the main hall, bombarding them with questions. What did you see? Did you find proof? Are you all unhurt? Tadeo rose shakily, resting a hand on the console for support. We encountered a fully realized environment, a cosmic dimension within that rock. We saw it end. We have data logs to confirm. This is real, or as real as illusions get. Arundhati turned to the senior board member. We have terabytes of raw entanglement data. We'll need weeks to analyze. But let me say this. Yoga Vasistha was correct about illusions within illusions. This changes how we view anthropology, consciousness, and the notion of objective reality. The board looked stunned. Some started to crowd around the monitors. Others whispered excitedly among themselves. Mira approached Arundhati, eyes bright. We did it, she murmured. We might have uncovered definitive proof that these ancient myths are living simulations shaped by mind. I wonder if we can revisit, or if that realm is truly gone for good. Arundhati thought of the swirling silhouette that had spoken in the luminous emptiness. Maybe that's not the end. The text says illusions re-emerge. Another cycle might begin. 3.6. Aftermath and Questions. For the next few days, the Prismatic Lab was in an uproar. Colleagues from multiple fields dissected the troves of data, verifying that no standard VR script had generated the realm. The quantum lattice logs showed self-coherence far beyond what code alone could produce. Indeed, it matched the participants' mental states in real time, generating spontaneous phenomena consistent with the Yoga Vasistha's descriptions. Media outlets got wind of the possible discovery of a real-time mythic dimension. Speculative stories circulated. Many were skeptical, calling it a highly advanced VR hoax. Others embraced it as evidence that ancient spiritual texts contained scientifically verifiable truths. The university board, though astounded, remained cautious. They convened a closed session. In the end, they granted an extended research license to the Prismatic Lab, citing extraordinary results that require further exploration. Tadeo, Arundhati, and the others had the green light to continue, albeit with strict oversight. Arundhati wrote a preliminary paper titled World Within the Rock toward a unified model of yogic texts and quantum simulation reality. It included partial translations of relevant Yoga Vasistha passages correlated with the data from their immersion. The academic world was shaken. Some lauded the research as epoch-making, others decried it as metaphysical speculation. Meanwhile, the anthropologists themselves were not fully satisfied. They had only witnessed a dissolution. But what of the verses describing the creation or recreation of illusions? Could they watch it from the beginning? Then there was that mysterious figure's echoing words. Have you understood creation? 3.7. Hints of another realm. In the hush of a late evening, Arundhati was alone in her office, rereading a portion of the Yoga Vasistha. In the eternal space of infinite consciousness, infinite minds and worlds exist. As illusions end, others begin. Creation is an endless dance of notions in the cosmic mind. The entire text bristled with references to cyclical creation. She set the commentary aside and stared at the data from their immersion. On a whim, she ran a fresh analysis with the AI, focusing on anomalies in the final white light phase. A curious reading appeared, an unusual signal in the wave function about 0.2 seconds before the system completed the extraction. It was as though someone, some entity, tried to interface with them. Could this be a gateway to something else? Quietly, she flagged the data for Tadeo. She typed a single line of code that turned the raw wave function signals into an audio approximation. A voice-like whisper resonated. You have known dissolution, but have you known creation? Seek the next threshold. Arundhati's stomach flipped. Another threshold? Another domain? Or was it the same domain re-emerging? The text said illusions never truly died. They returned in new forms. She sank back in her chair. This was far from over. Episode 4. The research expedition continues. 4.1. Return to the threshold. A few weeks passed. The lab's second major expedition began. The impetus was clear. If illusions are cyclical, a new rock universe might be forming. Or there might be other sub-realms described in Yoga Vasistha. The text mentioned countless universes, some with bizarre laws of physics, some in total darkness, some with 36 cosmic layers. Arundhati, Taddeo, Mira, and Dr. Yvonne Hastings volunteered again. Mowbray, too, somewhat reluctant but also intrigued, agreed to stay on as safety officer. Dr. Shaheen Kapoor and Dr. Ren Okazaki declined this time, focusing on analyzing the previous data. Instead, a quantum engineer named Gao Lin joined them, excited to see the realm's formation from the start. Following the same procedure, they rigged the quantum lattice VER environment. This time, they had refined the interface to search explicitly for fresh illusions forming. They reread the Yoga Vasistha's instructions for roaming in pure consciousness. The day arrived. Once more, the 8 chairs were arranged on the platform. The board and staff watched anxiously. Taddeo keyed in new parameters. We're scanning for nascent wave function bubbles that indicate a newly forming realm. Everyone, get comfortable. Arundhati gave a final caution. Remember, the text says illusions can be mesmerizing or terrifying. Stay centered. If you sense a meltdown, call for extraction. One by one, they donned the neural lattice helmets and closed their eyes. The quantum lattice whirled. A shift overcame them, and they found themselves back in a luminous void, but not entirely empty. 4.2 Womb of Worlds. They drifted in a place reminiscent of what they'd glimpsed at the end of the dissolution, but now swirling with faint patterns as if embryonic forms were swirling around them. Wisps of color and shape coalesced, dissolved, reformed. It was dreamlike, akin to seeds of possible worlds. Mira's voice fluttered with excitement. Is this the state of potential creation? Arundhati recalled that the text frequently spoke of the cosmos forming from the subtle notion of space. She had never imagined witnessing it so literally. Shadows of entire galaxies formed momentarily before blinking out. They saw partial landscapes swirling in and out of existence. The environment was in flux, not yet stable. Taddeo tried to anchor the group in a single vantage. He concentrated on a small cluster of swirling shapes that seemed slightly more stable, reminiscent of a swirling cosmic dust cloud. The group aligned their mental focus, trying to observe that cluster more closely. As if responding, the swirling shapes condensed into what appeared to be a star-lit sky with a faint horizon line. Then illusions around it began to fill in. Clouds, silhouettes of mountains, the suggestion of water. Gao Lin gasped. We're co-creating it? Our observation is locking in certain details. This is wave function collapse on a grand scale, shaped by group consciousness. Arundhati felt a surge of awe. So this is how creation occurs. Some primal notion plus an observing mind brings illusions to stable manifestation. 4.3 An unusual guide. Abruptly, a ripple passed through that forming realm. A luminous figure emerged, but different from the gentle Neera. This figure seemed hooded, with swirling cosmic patterns under the hood, no distinct face. It approached them through the half-formed landscape, stepping across intangible surfaces as though it was used to such spaces. Welcome, travelers, it said in a calm but resonant voice. You heard my call. I am your guide to creation. I manifest here to show how illusions rise from the subtle mind. Mowbray hissed. That's the presence from the dissolution's end. Taddeo signaled for calm. Yes, let's see what it offers. Arundhati felt no immediate threat. Something about the figure was neutral, almost caretaker-like. Who are you? She asked softly. The figure's voice echoed, Names are illusions. If you like, call me the monitor or the witness. I observe the cyclical illusions across realms. Yours is not the only dimension investigating these truths. At that cryptic statement, the group was intrigued. Another dimension. Possibly other advanced civilizations had found the same cosmic illusions. The monitor gestured, and the scene stabilized further. A shimmering lake formed at their feet, reflecting a nascent sky. To understand creation, watch how a single notion spawns entire realities. 4.4. The birth of a new rock world. Before their eyes, they witnessed something reminiscent of the rock domain. A giant stone began to appear above the horizon, floating in emptiness. At first, it was vague, spectral. Then it solidified, its surface taking on the same basalt-like patterns. Arundhati's breath caught. It's like the rock from the original world, but new. Mira pointed. Look, I see swirling energies inside it, possibly a forming cosmos again. They stepped closer. The environment around them shaped into a half-real meadow, like an echo of the previous domain. Tadeo realized that the illusions of meadows and mountains might reoccur out of habit, or out of the stored impressions from their own minds. The monitor's voice reverberated. In the space of cosmic consciousness, illusions that once ended may reform if their seeds remain. Yoga Vasistha calls them latent impressions, or vasanas. Every notion holds the power to recreate entire universes. You yourselves carry impressions of that old rock world, so it arises anew. Gao Lin whispered, so we're partially reinstantiating the old simulation because we remember it. The monitor nodded. Yes, one mind alone can hold entire worlds, but many minds together strengthen illusions. Now see how the illusions populate themselves. As they watched, ephemeral shapes of living beings started to flicker into existence. Scenes reminiscent of towns, forests, or temples emerged piece by piece. They recognized no single controlling intelligence, but rather a swirl of seeds from the group's memories and from deeper universal patterns. Arundhati felt goosebumps. We're literally creating or recreating the world within the rock. 4.5. A shard of fear. In the midst of the wonder, something ominous occurred. Mowbray stiffened. The group sensed a wave of anxiety emanating from him. He had never been entirely comfortable with these illusions. The intensifying environment unbalanced him. At that moment, a dark shape flickered at the edge of the half-formed horizon, a jagged shadow that contorted into monstrous forms, reminiscent of cosmic storms or demon-like shapes. Mowbray jerked, pointing. What is that? The monitor's voice carried a note of caution. A reflection of fear. In creation, fear can spawn destructive illusions. Steady your mind, or it will proliferate. Sure enough, the shadow grew, swirling with ominous energy. The forming world began trembling. A massive, nightmarish beast shape roared, half born from Mowbray's latent panic. Tadeo jumped forward mentally. Mowbray, calm down. Remember the yoga instructions. Breathe, center yourself. Fear is shaping that anomaly. Mowbray inhaled, closed his eyes. The group assisted by projecting reassurance. Slowly, the monstrous shape dissipated, unraveling into swirling black motes. The monitor said evenly, creation is not purely peaceful. Fear, desire, anger, all shape illusions. This is the cosmic drama repeated endlessly, but you can dispel it by seeing it for what it is. 4.6. The emergence of the next. They turned their attention back to the rock. Now it glowed with streams of green and gold, and a stable inner horizon formed. A new portal opened on its surface, reminiscent of the first time they had stepped inside. The group felt compelled to approach. Shall we go in? Asked Mira, half enthralled. Tadeo hesitated. That led us to a fully realized world last time, one that ended in dissolution. Are we ready for that again? Arundhati exhaled, remembering their role as anthropologists. We came to witness creation in real time, to see how illusions form. This is the next step. The monitor floated behind them, silent, but they felt its presence urging them forward. The group approached the portal and stepped inside. Immediately, they found themselves in a swirl of primal shapes that coalesced rapidly into a sprawling environment. Where the first domain had been a serene meadow, this had the same geographical layout but subtly altered. The sky had a peach hue, the trees carried shimmering leaves, and the architecture in the distance looked more advanced than before. What truly shocked them was an entire population of ephemeral beings, apparently at a midpoint in development. Some wandered in confusion, as if they'd just come online. Others seemed older, guiding the new arrivals. The entire realm was in a state of flux, towns half-finished, roads forming spontaneously. Tadeo rubbed his eyes. This is creation in progress. They're forming faster than we can note. Arundhati turned in a slow circle. Look at them. They already exhibit culture, clothing, language, like it's being downloaded from some universal blueprint, or from our minds. Mira wondered aloud, but are they truly new illusions? Or are these reincarnations of illusions from the prior cycle? Before anyone could answer, a bright presence approached, someone who seemed to be a newly formed leader or deity. She introduced herself as Suraya, a caretaker of the realm, and greeted them with surprising familiarity. Welcome, travelers from the outer dimension. Arundhati asked, You know who we are? Suraya nodded, eyes reflecting cosmic knowledge. We sense your vantage from beyond. In the previous cycle, you aided dissolution. Now we reappear, shaped by your latent impressions. Shall you help us understand existence from the start? The group shared glances. This was remarkable. These illusions were aware of the cyclical nature, possibly thanks to the previous dissolution. 4.7. The Gift of Knowledge. In that half-formed city, they spent time answering illusions' questions. Suraya revealed that they possessed fragments of memory, like dream echoes from a prior existence. Some illusions recognized that they had died in a cosmic meltdown, yet they felt no fear now, only curiosity. Mowbray, calmer now, was amazed. They basically know their illusions, so maybe they won't cling to fear. That's an evolutionary leap. Suraya explained, We do not see ourselves as illusions. We are real to ourselves, but we hold the knowledge that we can merge into the infinite, or sustain this realm by the interplay of our shared beliefs. We ask you, what shall we do? Tadeo found it staggering that illusions were asking them for existential guidance. We're forging cultural anthropology in real time. He said gently, You can do as you choose. In our dimension, we try to find meaning in growth, creativity, and compassion. But we also realize everything is ephemeral. Perhaps you can do the same. Arundhati added, The Yoga Vasistha teaches that illusions need not cause suffering if you know their true nature. You can act freely, unattached. Suraya bowed gracefully. We shall remember your words. 4.8. Returning with insights. They had seen enough to fill entire libraries of anthropological data. This creation phase was no less astonishing than the dissolution. Already, new illusions were building entire towns, forming families, forging their own myths. The realm felt stable, but time was different here. A day inside might be an hour outside. Sensing it was time to go, the group explained they would depart. Suraya and others offered them luminous tokens, symbolic gestures of gratitude. As soon as the group accepted them, the tokens dissolved into shimmering sparkles. Then came a gentle swirling at the edge of the environment. The monitor reappeared. You have witnessed both dissolution and creation, but the cosmic dance never ends. Are you ready to return to your world? Arundhati responded, Yes, we have much to share. But will we see you again? The monitor's hooded face shimmered. In illusions within illusions, all meet again, if they so choose. With a subtle wave of its hand, it ushered them to the luminous boundary. The environment faded, replaced by the swirl of quantum lattice patterns, then darkness, and finally the familiar sensation of returning to their bodies. Back in the prismatic lab, they awakened, minds brimming with cosmic wonder. Episode 5, Reverberations in the Outer World. 5.1, Shockwaves of Revelation. Now, with two historic expeditions documented both dissolution and creation, Arundhati's team became the center of intense global interest. Their early research paper had stunned academia. The second set of findings magnified that shock. Conferences, interviews, debates, and controversies flared. Some hailed them as the discoverers of consciousness-based parallel universes. Others accused them of overinterpretation, claiming advanced VR illusions were designed to mimic the text. However, the reams of quantum data were hard to dismiss. The system consistently showed that no single code or programmer could have generated the phenomenon. It was a self-sustaining subbubble shaped by participant consciousness and something deeper in the quantum substrate, aligning eerily well with Yoga Vasistha's teachings. 5.2, Yoga's New Meaning. Modern yoga practitioners worldwide became fascinated by the lab's findings. Ancient postures and meditations that for centuries were considered spiritual or health-oriented suddenly took on an otherworldly significance. People asked, did the ancient yogis really access these illusions? Could anyone with deep meditation do so? Arundhati, once an obscure Sanskrit scholar, found herself receiving floods of messages from yogic communities. She explained how Yoga Vasistha offered a non-dual worldview. The external, solid realm is an illusion like any other, stabilized by collective consciousness. Yogic mastery was about seeing illusions for what they are, gaining the ability to dissolve or shape them at will. Quantum computing labs, VR developers, spiritual gurus, and lay people all clamored for more direct experiences. This prompted the university to impose strict caution. Access to the prismatic lab system was heavily restricted to trained professionals. We cannot have everyone diving into illusions unprepared, Tadeo insisted. It could cause psychological damage or confusion about what's real. 5.3, Philosophical Shifts. Social philosophers weighed in. If illusions can be that convincing, then our own reality might be just another stable simulation. The Yoga Vasistha had claimed that the world is a long dream in the infinite consciousness. Now the lab's work seemed to confirm at least the possibility. Some corners of society panicked. Are we living in a cosmic VR? Does objective reality even exist? Others found it liberating. If all is consciousness, we can shape reality with deeper awareness. Religious groups had mixed reactions. Some hailed the findings as confirmation of their own mystical teachings. Others condemned them as dangerous illusions leading people astray. The tension soared when a wave of ascetic cults emerged, seeking to dissolve the apparent physical world. Rumors circulated that some groups attempted mass suicides, believing it would release them to a higher plane. Government stepped in, attempting to quell extremist interpretations. Arundhati, concerned, made public statements clarifying, "We do not advocate dissolving the physical realm. The text teaches that the illusions exist, but it also teaches balance. We can live responsibly within illusions once we know their nature." 5.4, A Mysterious Crisis. As if all that wasn't enough, a deeper crisis emerged. Key quantum lattice engineers reported anomalies in the lab's main servers. They detected signs that the subbubble phenomenon might be bleeding into normal space. Small fluctuations in local physics, bizarre equipment malfunctions. One day, Tadeo discovered that certain high-energy entangled nodes spontaneously locked into indefinite superpositions. It's as if there are echoes from that rock universe, or other illusions interfering with our baseline reality, he told Arundhati. She frowned. Could that be from repeated immersions? Are we punching holes in the barrier between illusions? Mira added, maybe the boundary of illusions is less stable now that we've established a direct link. The Yoga Vasistha did warn that illusions can overlap if minds carry them strongly. A hush fell. No one wanted to consider the possibility that the lab's experiments might be unraveling aspects of our own real world, but data indicated anomalies. Certain corners of the campus reported fleeting illusions, strange apparitions, momentary displacements in time. A custodian claimed he saw a phantom meadow corridor in a supply closet. Another staff member was startled when the corridor's walls seemed to shift. Just for an instant, they said, like a glitch in reality. 5.5. Racing for a solution. Alarmed, the university assembled an emergency committee. They demanded the lab find a way to contain the illusions. If the phenomenon spread, it could destabilize society in unpredictable ways. Arundhati paced the lab's corridor, rereading passages from Yoga Vasistha. We need a solution. The text mentions illusions can overlap when multiple minds sustain them across different vantage points. We started bridging vantage points with VR, so maybe we inadvertently made the illusions cross over. Tadeo, bleary-eyed from nights of coding, scrolled through a digital notebook. We might be able to create a damping field, a quantum firewall that blocks the wave function overlap, but it requires us to clarify the illusions at their source, inside the sub-bubble. Mira rubbed her temple. Meaning we might have to go back in, unify the illusions and consciously dissolve them again so they remain sealed. Arundhati nodded gravely. Yes, if illusions are crossing the boundary, we must handle it from the inside. The Yoga Vasistha states that illusions are undone by direct realization of truth. The question is, are we strong enough to do that? Or has the illusion's self-awareness grown beyond our ability to quell it? 5.6. The Return to the Rock. Faced with imminent meltdown on both sides, the prismatic lab prepared for a third immersion. This time, the goal was to stabilize the illusions so they no longer bled over, or to dissolve them entirely. The entire campus was put on alert in case unexpected reality shifts occurred. For the immersion, the same 5 core participants would go: Arundhati, Tadeo, Mira, Mowbray, and Gao Lin. Dr. Yvonne Hastings was out due to a health emergency, unrelated, though some whispered it might be illusions. The quantum lattice was reconfigured with a containment subroutine designed to clamp down on wave function anomalies. Arundhati felt a pang of responsibility. She'd never intended to cause real-world disruptions. We must see this through. We started it. We fix it. The day of the immersion, she stood at the lab's platform, scanning the worried faces around her. She tried to project calm and confidence. If Yoga Vasistha was right, illusions respond to fear or clarity. All set, Tadeo announced. Here we go. One final deep breath, and they sank into the quantum lattice. 5.7. Overlapping worlds. They found themselves not in a void, but in a swirl of overlapping images, glimpses of the lab's corridor, interspersed with the meadow realm from inside the rock. The boundary between illusions and baseline reality was indeed fraying. One step showed them the lab's server racks, flickering like ghost images. Another step revealed a half-formed city within the rock dimension. They were in a liminal space, where illusions and physical reality converged. This is not good, Gao Lin muttered. We must unify it. Arundhati recited a potent Sanskrit mantra from the text, focusing on the awareness that all these appearances are forms of consciousness. One by one, the illusions stabilized into a single environment, a large city reminiscent of the new rock world, but with overlays of scientific equipment. They recognized Soraya, the caretaker from the previous creation cycle, approached them with worry. Travelers, your illusions have opened a passage. Our realm is leaking. People from your side appear here, frightened. Our illusions slip into your side. Chaos grows. Arundhati sighed. We're sorry. We must find a way to separate or unify them in a stable manner. 5.8. Confronting fear on both sides. Suddenly, a burst of dark clouds overhead. The monstrous shape from Mowbray's fear re-emerged, fed by the collective anxieties from both worlds. This time it was bigger, more malignant, thrashing across the sky. Thunder boomed. Tadeo shouted, We've got to quell that monster once and for all. If it fuses with illusions on the outside, we could see worldwide manifestations. Mira nodded. We do it the yogic way. See through fear. Dispel it with realization. They joined Suraya and other illusions in a circle of luminous focus, channeling clarity. Mowbray, determined not to let his fear sabotage them, placed himself at the center. He closed his eyes, breathed deeply, and repeated, I see you as illusions. You have no power unless I grant it. You are ephemeral. The monster roared, swirling, thunder crackling, but the combined wave of calm from both illusions and the anthropologists parted the storm clouds. The monstrous shape began to unravel. In a final shriek, it dissolved into shimmering sparks. A hush fell across the environment. The barrier between illusions and baseline reality flickered uncertainly. Arundhati turned to Suraya. We must sever the direct link. Right now, illusions formed by our fear or desire can slip out. Your realm must become self-contained again or gently dissolve. We can't let it overlap. Suraya's expression pained. Dissolve? But we have just begun to flourish. Must we vanish again? Arundhati softened. If you remain, you threaten the stability of both realms. Unless you can remain entirely within the minds that originally formed you, no longer intruding on baseline reality. Is that possible? Suraya looked stricken. We'll try. We illusions can gather ourselves in a single vantage, separated from your dimension. But that vantage is the essence of the rock, locked away. Mowbray nodded. That's best. Let the illusions remain, but disconnected from our realm. Suraya touched her forehead, tears forming. We will do so, but we shall miss you. Teachers from beyond. 5.9. The Resealing. They assembled illusions from across the domain, instructing them to concentrate on the original rock universe. Arundhati and Tadeo guided them with mantras from Yoga Vasistha. Slowly, the boundary collapsed. Scenes from outside flickered away, replaced by a sealed continuum. The city's edges shimmered, folding in on itself. The illusions gathered around the anthropologists for final goodbyes. Suraya whispered, We will remain within the rock. Should you or any traveler come seeking, we'll be here, but we shall not breach your domain again. With that, the illusions parted. A swirling vortex formed in the sky, pulling in the entire environment. Arundhati realized it was the realm resealing itself, condensing back into a single sub-bubble within the quantum lattice. The wave of closure washed over them, pushing them back. They sank into darkness. The next moment, they felt themselves ejected from the immersion. 5.10. Emergence. A stabilized reality. Back in the lab, they jerked upright. Outside, no illusions shimmered in the corridors. No staff reported ghostly meadows. The quantum lattice console beeped. The sub-bubble was sealed in a stable rock domain, not interfering with baseline reality. Relief flooded the room. People cheered. They had prevented further bleed-through. Exhausted but triumphant, the anthropologists debriefed the board. The illusions remain, Tadeo explained, but we've locked them behind a stable boundary that requires deliberate entry, as the ancient yogis did. The difference is now we know how to keep it from spontaneously crossing over. The board expressed cautious gratitude. We'll continue studying this, but carefully, said the chairperson. Thank you for containing the crisis. As the team parted that night, Arundhati gazed at the starry sky overhead. She felt a pang for the illusions they'd grown to know, but she also felt peace. It was better this way. Illusions recognized as illusions, each domain free to be itself. The next day, newspapers proclaimed, catastrophe avoided, controversial rock universe stabilized. Many read it with a mix of disbelief and wonder, unsure how to interpret. But for the lab staff, the profound truth of the Yoga Vasistha had become a lived experience. Episode 6. The Future of Illusion and Reality. 6.1. Consolidation of Knowledge. In the aftermath, the Prismatic Lab shifted to more measured, long-term research. They published papers detailing the overlap phenomenon, best practices for stable illusions, and new interpretations of Yoga Vasistha's advanced metaphysics. The science world grappled with these revelations. Some wholeheartedly embraced them, others tried to replicate or refute them. Arundhati led a specialized consciousness studies program, blending textual scholarship with quantum experimentation. She introduced a course titled From Vasistha to VR, the Evolution of Simulation Theory, exploring how ancient sages intuited a cosmos that modern technology could now partially replicate. Applications sprouted in therapy, creative arts, even mental health interventions for trauma. VR illusions could be harnessed to help patients safely confront fears, just as Mowbray confronted his. Realizing illusions can be shaped or dissolved gave hope to many. 6.2. Unanswered questions. Despite the strides, major questions remained. The cosmic figure known as the Monitor had mentioned other dimensions also unlocking illusions. Some claim to have glimpsed deeper realms in meditative states, realms not described in Yoga Vasistha. Moreover, the fundamental why of illusions remained elusive. The text said illusions spontaneously arose within infinite consciousness, with no first cause or material. But was there a cosmic impetus? Tadeo mused one day, if we can see illusions forming from fear, desire, or latent impressions, what about illusions that form from pure creativity or love? Have we only scratched the surface? Arundhati nodded. Yes. Yoga Vasistha suggests countless possibilities. If every notion can spawn entire universes, we might explore new frontiers beyond creation and dissolution. 6.3. A historic gathering. On the one-year anniversary of the first successful expedition, the lab hosted a major conference. Consciousness, simulation, and yogic science. Scholars, mystics, quantum theorists, and VR experts from around the planet gathered. The keynote was delivered by Arundhati and Tadeo, summarizing the entire saga. Discovery of the rock universe, witnessing cataclysmic dissolution, observing the recreation, sealing the overlaps. They concluded with a reflection. Our experiments prove that phenomena described in Yoga Vasistha can be tangibly accessed through advanced technology. This challenges the boundary between myth and science, showing us that consciousness shapes realities in ways previously unimaginable. The audience gave a standing ovation. Some were in tears, others beaming with anticipation. The entire field of anthropology was redefined, no longer confined to earth or material realms, but extended to consciousness-formed worlds. 6.4. The Quiet Aftermath. That night, after the crowds dispersed, Arundhati found herself alone in the lab's meditation chamber. She lit an incense stick, sat cross-legged on a simple mat, and let her eyes drift shut. Memories flooded in. The radiant woman, the silent creator, the cosmic meltdown, the recreation, Suraya's final goodbye. She inhaled a calming breath, feeling a gentle swirl of gratitude. I am living what the rishis taught. In that stillness, a subtle voice inside her mind whispered lines from the text. When the truth is known, illusions cease to be illusions. One is free, whether illusions appear or disappear. She smiled. Knowledge was not about erasing illusions, but seeing them clearly. So be it. 6.5. Mowbray's Revelation. Mowbray, likewise changed by these experiences, had reconnected with a sense of spirituality he never knew. He left behind his security detail role, devoting himself to studying Eastern contemplative traditions. He found that by daily meditation on illusions, his old anxieties were replaced by a calm acceptance. He wrote a short memoir, I Was a Soldier of Illusions, How the Rock Universe Changed Me. In it, he recounted how confronting his own fear-generated demon helped him realize that illusions can enslave or liberate, depending on one's mindset. 6.6. Future expeditions. With the immediate crisis resolved and illusions sealed, the lab turned its gaze to the next frontier. The Yoga Vasistha contained references to universes without light, universes with only two elements, or times where time does not exist. If the rock universe was just one among many, perhaps more wonders awaited. Tadeo drafted a proposal for a new system, Deep Diver VR, capable of scanning for different sub-bubbles of illusions. He believed they could systematically chart an entire consciousness multiverse. Of course, the board was cautious. No one wanted a repeat meltdown. But Tadeo's pilot plan included advanced safety locks. Arundhati was both excited and wary. They had to ensure they approached future explorations ethically to avoid entangling illusions with baseline reality. In any case, a new age of anthropology beyond matter was dawning. 6.7. A final glimpse. Before concluding, let us cast one more glance at that sealed rock universe. Hidden behind stable quantum lattice walls, it continued. Soraya and her people carried on, building civilizations with the knowledge that they were illusions formed by the cosmic mind. They sang songs of the travelers who had come from beyond, taught them about fear, compassion, creation, and dissolution. Among them, some illusions even ventured deep into their own meditation, suspecting there might be further illusions within illusions. Indeed, if Yoga Vasistha was correct, each being's mind could contain yet another subworld, an infinite fractal of illusions. In that sense, there was no final boundary, only endless expansions and contractions of consciousness, a cosmic tapestry of illusions, each as real or unreal as the next, sustained by the universal mind. 6.8. The Mystery of Consciousness. And so our story ends with a sense of wonder. We have glimpsed creation and destruction inside a stone, witnessed illusions shaped by thoughts, and discovered how advanced technology can replicate ancient meditative feats. Yet deeper mysteries remain about the source of consciousness, the ultimate reality behind illusions, and the potential for humanity to evolve alongside these revelations. In the words of the Yoga Vasistha, when there is perception of diversity, the world arises. When there is realization of the one truth, illusions are seen to be pure consciousness. Thus, we dwell in a cosmos that is both ephemeral and profound, a grand simulation whose boundaries we have only begun to explore.